We appreciate your business and we want to give you a rundown of how to start this thing up. So when the unit is initially dropped off to you in your backyard, it's likely that it's already going to be unwrapped. It's going to be placed in the position. Now it's just time for the electrician and for the water. All right, in the hot tub we have our filter housing, which is referenced. That top grate simply turns. You line up the two little slices on the sides with the plates. So if I was to do it, I would simply turn, line them up, and lift out. Now, anytime that the hot tub is running, it's going to create a little bit more difficulty to lift that. But I'm able to do it on low speed. So then I just drop it in and give it a little turn. Next, we're going to talk about our topside controller. So almost all the Nordics we have use a 4-button control system. We got jets, we got light, we got cool, and warm. We have a little heat designation light right here. That just tells us when it's running, when it's on. We're going to have a low speed, which is running right now. Just a slight movement of water. Then we kick it up on high speed. That gives us more power. Our light button allows us to turn our lights on. That's going to be for either the standard package or the Northern Lights package, which typically at Mainely Tubs we order all of our units with the Northern Lights package. Every time I turn those jets or lights off and on, it's going to change the colors. So as I go through the spectrum, I can have blue, I can have purple, I can have whatever I want. So it's just simply off and on is going to switch between those different colors. We have our temperature up and our temperature down. That's pretty self-explanatory. Your maximum temperature you're allowed to set a Nordic at is 104 degrees. We do recommend that you leave your temperature set at your use preference. You wouldn't want to have it at 101 and then drop it down to 80 and then heat it up every time you wanted to use it. That will not be cost effective, it will not be efficient, and it's not going to be ready when you want to enjoy it. The other thing I want to show you real quick, this is how we get into our filtration cycles. We will just simply tap temperature key and the jets key. That gives us F2. That means that from this moment in time, right now, if I was to set it on F3, it's going to run 3 hours from now, and then 12 hours later, it's going to run for another 3 hours. So if it was, let's say, 8 o'clock in the morning, it's going to run from 8 a.m. until 11 a.m. and then 8 p.m. until 11 p.m. Again, you want to get into here. Typically people set it at a 2, some people set it at a 3. What we don't need to have it at are these big crazy high numbers up there in the 8s. We don't need that, okay? That's overkill for what we're doing most of the time. If you've got a heavy use in the summer or you want to clean it up, you can always turn it up a little bit, but don't leave it at that. You know, keep it at a 2 or a 3. All right, now I'm going to talk a little bit about the features and some of the nuances that the system has. So I've already talked about your jetting, how the systems power on and so on. All the jets themselves are turnable. So if I wanted to reach in here, the individual jets, I can simply turn it off or on, right? So if one of the jets isn't working, always try to make sure that you've turned it on. Now with this, if I'm grabbing it and I'm going from this orientation, clockwise is off, counterclockwise is on. So it'll let you individually turn on or off those jets if one's hitting you in a sore spot. The other thing that we have are the air venturis. Now they're located on this model in the corners. There's one over there in that corner. I've got a bank of them here. When I turn those on or off, it's going to add air into the system. Now we don't see it quite as much here when I turn it on or off. We're going to power up the jets on high speed. When I add air, it adds power, right? So you can choose each individual seat to fluctuate that force. Now the other thing that the hot tub has that's unique is it has a diverter jet. Your diverter jet lets you move power to different areas within the tub. On this model, it's located on the side of the filter housing. Some models are located a little bit lower, some models are located on the front, over here. It really depends on which one, but most of the ones we sell are going to be in this general location. When I turn this jet, I'm just grabbing it and turning it very easily. Okay, there are 4 different, I don't want to call it modes, but 4 different settings where I can move power around. I can take all the power away from one side and put it to another. I can turn it one more click and it'll put all my power to the opposite side. I can turn it one more click and put all the power to just this big whirlpool jet, which creates the swirling motion. Or one more click and it allows me to send power evenly to all the jets. Now, it is always better to move that jet when the pump is not on high speed. You can do it, you just got to be careful. What we don't want is you don't want to create any undue back pressure or force on the pump or the component systems on plumbing. So just nice and gentle, it clicks into place, you'll be able to feel it. When you first get the hot tub, hop in and just play with that dial, because that's really going to give you some customization options. So the other thing I want to talk about is the sound system. The sound system is pretty self-explanatory. There are speakers, it's all Bluetooth. When you are going to link your phone up, you'll simply go into your Bluetooth settings with the hot tub on, you'll turn the Bluetooth on, and you'll search for the in-spa connection. Now there's going to be a code, a PIN that you have to enter when you pair it. That PIN is 5555. So that should only have to happen each time a new device is paired with the unit. It's very easy, and you get the full sound. Inside your chemical bucket that you'll receive from us, and that would be either if you're doing chlorine or if you're doing the frog ball, you'll open it up, and the first thing you're going to find is there's going to be a piece of paper. That piece of paper tells you how to do everything weekly, monthly, annually. This is based on what Mainely Tubs recommends. Now, I know the internet is full of information. I know the chemical bottles have information. We really ask that you please use our sheet, because we have found that over our 43 years of experience, this leads to the best results. Now, that'll be located in there. You'll also receive one as a PDF form in your email after you purchase the hot tub. If you ever need an additional or a replacement one, reach out to us. We're happy to send one. So, in our bucket, we're going to have different options, starting with our test strips. On the chlorine system, it's going to be the test strips like this. They're going to be the fresh water. They're considered a 5-way. On here, you have really your free chlorine, you've got your alkalinity, you have your pH, and you have your hardness. The other reading on here is bromine. We're not going to be paying any attention to that. So you can just totally disregard the bromine. You just want the FCL, the ALK, pH, and hardness. Our hardness level, I'll start there. When you first fill the hot tub, that's going to be based on what your source water has. So if you're filling it off of a water softener system in the house, plan on it being lower on hardness. If you're filling it off a standard well, it's possible to be a little higher. If you're filling off of a town water, you're probably going to be right in the middle. So check that out. You can also test your source water before you even fill the hot tub. They make a couple of products that will help you adjust that. There would either be a calcium hardness, which is a granular, or a liquid chemical that'll help to raise it. Then they make a couple of choices for reducing. One of them is called a vanishing act. It's a big pillow-looking device that gets tossed into the water. Usually it sits in the bottom closer to a drain, and it helps to reduce that level. There's also multiple pre-fill filters that you can buy that you screw on the end of your garden hose that are going to help to remove a lot of those problematic chemicals, iron and calcium and so on. So we do not always provide calcium either increasers or decreasers, because we don't know what your water source is going to be. So if you need those products or have questions, you can always give us a call. We have them available both in our store or on our e-store. That is going to be for our hardness. The next ones we're going to talk about are pH and alkalinity. Now, pH and alkalinity are controlled typically by two things. We have the pH and alkalinity down, and we have the pH and alkalinity up. Very simple. When we're testing our water, we want our pH to be between 7.2 and 7.8. We want our alkalinity to be somewhere between 40 and 120. It's what it's showing on the screen. Normally, our pH and alkalinity tend to drift together, where if our pH is low, our alkalinity is low. So both of these products, at the pH up and the pH down, it does both pH and alkalinity. So when you're testing, if you fall right within the OK range, it's perfect. You'll be all set. If you fall low, you'll simply add a dose of the pH alkalinity up. Now that's going to be a couple ounces based on a gallonage of water, which is all located on the chemical sheet. If your pH and alkalinity are high, you're going to add the pH and alkalinity down. Again, all the information for dosages are right on your chemical sheet. It's going to be a couple ounces per gallonage of water. If you run into a unique situation where your pH is good, however, your alkalinity is low. We provide you with a bottle of alkalinity increaser. So that's not as common of a product that people use. However, we felt it would be better that you have it on hand. Now, when you're testing these levels, you'll probably notice that you're always going to be one way or the other. You might always be perfect, or you'll always be low, or you'll always be high. You don't panic. It's a factor of your individual body chemistry, how acidic your sweat is, your source water, what sort of stuff is on your skin when you're getting in there. There's a lot of things that you are going to individually affect with the water chemistry. So don't panic. It's very common. Like me, I always have low pH. So I know that I'll have to add a little bit more. So once you get in the groove, you'll kind of have a feeling as to what you're going to have to do. Next, we get to our chlorine levels, our free chlorine. On the chart, it's telling us to be between a 3 and a 5. That is where we would like you to keep your sanitation level at all times. Now, on here, you'll have, it goes from a 10 all the way down to a 0. You don't want to have it up in the 10 always, because that's an extreme amount of sanitizer. If you always read 10, that higher level of chlorine in the water is not going to be really kind on some of the equipment systems, some of the jet faces, could bleach your suits. So don't run it that high. Same respect, don't run it really low. If you don't have any sanitizer, if it tests at a 0, that means the water is unsafe to go into. We don't want anybody getting any sort of rashes or any sort of bacterial infections. You have to have an active sanitizer in the water in order to make it safe for use. So again, try to hover it around that 3 to 5. How we adjust that is going to be through our freshwater concentrated chlorine granules. Now, again, it's going to depend on how large of a hot tub you have. For a startup dose, you're typically going to add a couple ounces per gallonage of water. On your regular maintenance, it's going to be down to the teaspoon or tablespoon level. Again, all this information is located on your chemical sheet. Depending on the gallons of water that you're dealing with, you're probably going to be a couple teaspoons either every time you get out or on a once-a-week basis. So always consult that sheet. Never go by what the internet or the back of the chemical bottle says. That is all we have on our test strip. That gives us all our information. There are a couple other products though, one of which is called a freshwater MPS oxidizer. Now this could be two different products. It could either be your the MPS or a Leisure Time Renew. So those are the two brands that we commonly see the most. It's the same chemical. It's an oxygen-based shock. We recommend that you add this to the water once a week. What this does is it helps to burn out and oxidize contaminants, and it helps to just kind of clean up all the stuff the chlorine, I don't want to say may have missed, but just burn it all out. Again, I've always picked one day that I'll always test my water, I add my adjustments, I add my Renew or MPS. That way I know I've done it. So, find yourself, get in a regiment that you kind of stick to it every week. The other thing that we have in here is the Instant Filter Cleaner, which is in a little bottle. You've got a little spray nozzle. You simply take off the cap, insert the stick, screw it down. You spray this on the filter to clean them off. Now, we recommend that you are adjusting and cleaning your filters at least once a month. We say once a month to pull them out and to add this cleaning product. You're going to let it sit for about 15 minutes and then spray it off really well. I cannot emphasize enough, spray it off really well. I'll see people who just missed a little bit on the filter and then you really make enough of an attempt to rinse it off. So this is a mixture of an acid, of a detergent, of some enzymes that break down organic matter. Now the key that I said there was a detergent. If you don't clean the filter really well and rinse it very, very well, you get bubbles in the hot tub and it's going to drive you nuts. So always make sure that whenever you do a filter cleaning that you really vigorously spray that filter out, make sure that you're not getting any residual soapy bubbles, and then you can replace the filter into the unit. Now lastly in our bucket we have one of the freshwater mineral cartridges. What this does is it uses the power of charcoal and silver to help act as a sanitizer and be the first line of defense. All depending on what type of hot tub you have is going to say where these units go. On this one specifically, in the bottom of the filter housing, you'll unscrew the top, you'll pull the filter out. You're going to notice there's going to be a hole in the bottom that corresponds with the hole inside the filter. You will simply insert this into the hole in the bottom of the unit, slip the filter back over it, and tighten it down. That is going to ensure that water is constantly flowing over this device. Now these last every 4 months. We have them available both in our e-store and in our store here in Scarborough and Rye and Bedford, New Hampshire. You can also sign up with our staff. We have an automatic shipment program where if you don't want to have to remember, we will remind you. That concludes everything for our standardized chlorine chemical set. Now there are additional chemicals out there. I've always called them Band-Aid chemicals. They have specific stuff for scaling of the water. They have bright and clear clarifiers. They have metal reducers. There's a lot of extra things that you may or may not run into. So for us, we would rather set you up with the basics. If you find yourself in need of these specific items, we have them available at our stores. We also have all the information listed on our chemical sheets.